broadcasting location.
This is a test. For the next 60 seconds, this station will conduct a test of the emergency broadcast system.
America, here comes the relief from the pain. Unapologetically. This is Lock and Load with Bill Frady.
Hour number 2. This is Lock and Load. Joining me now from the lovely city of Detroit, the director of Legally Armed in Detroit, fresh off of his appearance where he was discussing lethal force. Yeah, I saw that. Is the director. He is Rick Ector. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, man, good afternoon from Detroit, Michigan. Villa Detroit, man. Hey, I'm having a great day. The weather is decent. It's chilly. It's sunny. It's not gloomy.
Right.
So I'm in relatively good spirits, man. And I got heat, so I'm good, man. How about you? How are things in your neck of the woods?
I've got all of my bonsai trees out on the deck. They're all getting a little bit of sun, which is good for them because they do like to photosynthesize. I'm waiting on plumbers, and I have a nice fresh cup of coffee.
Well, brace yourself for that plumber, man. Let me tell you, I don't begrudge those guys, but let me tell you, they have a skill set that if you need it, you're not really in a great bargaining position because essentially it's this. If you call a plumber, one, you already know that it's serious. Two, you know that whatever he tells you, you're pretty much going to have to suck it up and get it done. And no one can give you an accurate quote over the phone, right? I have to come over and see it, and you can't hold me accountable. Plus, they might even charge you a fee just for ringing your doorbell, man.
And this is the beauty of having a home warranty.
Oh, you have a home warranty?
Yeah.
Okay. Simplified claims process.
$100
no minimum.
$100.
$100 deductible or $100 copay. What? How does that work?
That's it. $100. Costs $100. Okay.
And you don't have to pull teeth to actually get them to cut a check?
Well, I mean, the vendor they send is their vendor. Right. So because of that particular thing, it sort of works out to where I don't exactly have plumber of the year showing up, but I do have someone that has a business, right?
Look, man, he doesn't have to be plumber of the year, at least be, effective, right?
Right. Correct. So,
like if something's leaking, make it dry. If something needs to be replaced, make it happen. It's like that. It's like a virtual black box, man. I don't know what goes in it. All I know is that as long as the right output or the right solution, like a mended pipe is corrected and you're dry instead of wet, or water is flowing instead of not flowing, or if it's gushing to make it stop raining in your house, whatever it is.
One of those things, yeah.
$100.
$100.
Well, I mean, I'm not so rich that $100 isn't just trivial, but, all things considered, okay, $100.
Still quite doable.
Yeah, doable, I guess, But other than plumbing woes, everything else good on the home front?
I guess. I'd like to go out and get a little more range time, but I haven't had a chance to because it's been raining so much, but maybe it's cleared up. I don't know. We will see.
Well, range time is always good for obvious reasons, but one thing that I will also interject and suggest, not only should you get sufficient time of sending lead down range, but you should also invest in, not necessarily financially, but time-wise, in information and training about various scenarios and how you get that information, man, can be done, a lot of different ways.
Right.
You can watch training videos, you can read books, or you can go attend a presentation on real life stories of self-defense, man.
Something like that. Any of those things. All those things. Probably should be doing all of them.
Yeah, man, I conducted said aforementioned event this past Saturday, man.
Right.
Lethal force aftermath, and this is actually the third time that I've conducted it, not for lack of trying. I mean, if you want real life stories of people defending themselves, of course you need the people, man. And not everyone is necessarily eager to go to the front of a large room at a microphone with a bunch of strangers and in some way, in some shape or form, bare their soul and talk about their fears and open themselves up to criticism, man. Criticism is a powerful influence, man, because, you may want to share something that you did, and you might be worried about people second guessing, Well,
I'll tell you that, and this is the thing about a radio show, right? I know that there is no way that I can please everybody that listens to me. So there's going to be somebody with criticism, and and even the ones that, how should we put it? Even the ones that are trying to be helpful.
Trying to be helpful.
You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, go ahead, go.
So, like, I'll be talking about a topic, right? And I'll get somebody will call in. And they'll go, I want to tell you this, and I don't want to say I'm going to be enlightening you, but, and then they proceed to
They used the word but. That means forget everything I said before but.
Yeah. And
I'm going to tell you how I really feel.
Or better yet, on the text line, I'll be sitting there and I'm setting up, I'm talking, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see on the text line, if you really want to start the show good, you should say this. And I'm just, and it's you got to take it just like with criticism. You got to take it, and I guess it has to be handled. I'm sure you have a line that you will that you got to cross. Somebody's got to cross that line before you sort of snap back at them, right?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, because one, you got to address the person to person, and then two, you got to be cognizant of people watching how you handle this person, and you don't want them to start thinking bad things about you in general,
right? Because
you have to deal with this one knucklehead. But I get it.
So that's just something I have to take with a grain of salt. But now you were doing a public speaking gig.
Sure.
Did you have to suck up some criticism there?
Well, anytime you do anything, there's going to be somebody that says something. I like to think that my skin is sufficiently thick,
right?
Unless it's like an overt, obvious dig or insult. Generally speaking, person to person or in a small setting, if someone was to say something unflattering or negative, my tact is just distance myself from this person, because it's not going to end well if I allow myself to truly express myself. And,
right.
and I have to be cognizant of my reputation and how I'm perceived. Someone might see me go off on the deep end and not saw what precipitated it. Right. So, but there have been some situations in which I was not sufficiently motivated to leave, and I let a person have it, and it happened live on air during the interview, man.
Hang on right there. We're coming up on the first break. Just going through the media talk that, and Rick does nearly as much media as I do, and he doesn't even have a show. He just gets invited to go talk to that stuff, and that's the beauty of Mr. Ector, because he gets out there and he's just constantly engaging, constantly. We'll be right back. This is Lock and Load.
Sat
Welcome back. This is Lock and Load. Talking to Rick Ector from Legally Armed in Detroit. And we were talking about criticism just in the public speaking realm, but like as an instructor or a subject matter expert, do you ever, in the course of what you do you ever get challenged on certain things or any of that other stuff?
All the time. But see, you have to wonder if the challenge is coming from a good place, right?
Right.
Case in point. Earlier today, a local member of the local news media, a smaller outlet, but still has a lot of pull and influence, they called me up and they're asking me about the Ethan Crumbley case, particularly his father is currently on trial right now for the shooting that he did at his school, right? The mother was already convicted of 4 involuntary manslaughter convictions. She's awaiting sentencing. So his trial has started. And a lot of news media outlets are covering it because it's of high interest here locally. I, have had some dealing with this one particular reporter, and they felt that I was sufficiently knowledgeable to speak to a lot of issues. So the question that he posed to me was rather interesting, and I'll pose it to you just to get your take on it, but I pretty much know what you're going to say.
Right.
Is it sufficient to put a gun in a locked case with a combination, and it's a 3-digit combination to this lock? Is it sufficient to make sure that the combination is not a default combination, whatever that works out to be?
You mean like if you buy a safe and the first combination coming is 1, 2, 3?
Me and this reporter, we were going back and forth. But here, that's the thing I like about them is that they entrust what I know well enough that they feel comfortable to ask me questions they probably wouldn't ask anyone else.
Right. Just
to see if some of the harebrained questions that they ask, if they're credible or not. Right.
Right.
And so the question that's posed to me that I'm posing to you, there's a gun you want to secure. It has 3 positions, right? You can go 0 through 9, right? 10 options for 3 positions, right?
Right.
So if you do basic math, that's 10 times 10 times 10. That's 1,000 combinations. Is it sufficient to just use the default combination that came with the lock, or should you at least be, I don't know, over the top to change it to something else?
Is
that a mitigating circumstance is what I'm getting at?
Well, I would think it is incumbent once you get something like that, if you're really going to secure it, that you would make it your combination and get away from that default combination. But then, having said that, right? If we're talking about now, we're talking about this particular the Crumbley house, right?
Right.
Any kid today that is upright and walking, I don't know how you keep them out of any of this stuff because
it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And that was entirely my point. I was like, look, whether it was the default combination, I don't know if people walk around knowing what default combinations are to various different locks, but we're only talking about 3 positions, right? And so 10 times 10 times 10, that's only 1,000. If you gave me a lock with 1,000 combinations that housed something that was really of value or significant to me, if I really wanted to get into it, what would I do to open that lock?
Well, I would try the default thing. I mean, I know one place that had, when you bought the equipment, the default password was password.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of people never change that. And then everybody's going, how come we got hacked?
Well, yeah, but you know what? A password is as good as any other password. I mean, because if I saw a lock that required a certain phrase,
right,
it might be password. It might be something else. I mean, the fact that there's a barrier there is sufficient for me to say, well, I'm not even going to bother it because obviously someone doesn't want me in there. So why do it? But here's the thing. It's only 3 positions, 10 numbers per position. If I really, really wanted to get in there, all I would have to do is try 1,000 combinations.
Yeah.
How long would that take if I was motivated?
Well, 1,000 combinations, who can tell? Now, here's the thing. What kind of gun safe was it? Because some gun safes are a little more equal than others.
You know what? I was caught off guard by this reporter's question, and I didn't have enough time to get that information beforehand and actually pull up this locking box with this 3-character combination position to look at it. You know, it was one of those deals where I told him, look, you obviously have a specific question in mind, so give me the particulars, and what I will do is give you my best analysis on what you tell me.
Right. Well,
that's all I did.
Yeah. So was it a safe or was it like a travel box or something?
It was some type of box, and according to what the reporter was sharing with me, it had 3 digits to allow for, characters, numbers 0 through 9. And I told him, look, that's 1,000 permutations, combinations, permutations. If you really wanted to get into that box, I mean, how long does it take you to try one number versus another? Like to dial in
3 seconds.
Combinations.
3 seconds.
Okay. So multiply 3 seconds by 1,000. That's 3,000 seconds,
yep.
Right?
Which is about.
Divide that by 60, and they'll tell you how many minutes, right?
50.
Okay, so we're talking an hour. If I really took an hour, if I really wanted to get into it, is that hour worth really debating?
Right.
So, the key point is that there is no possible way to safeguard against every possible contingency, right?
Well,
at the end of the go ahead. What, you think there is?
Well, no. I was going to tell you the other part, but we're coming up on the next break.
Oh, that's right.
So if you would, tell everybody how to find you.
I am Rick Ector, Director, NRA Director, Board of Directors. I can be reached on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and every week right here on Bill Frady's Lock and Load.
Yeah. Talking how do you handle certain questions, and especially coming from the anti-gun press, and that's a thing. That's a thing, because constantly getting challenged. Now Rick handles this a lot better than I would, because I'd get sort of irate with it. I'd get irate with that. I would, and but I'll get to the point that I'm about to, and this is probably not something that your guy was prepared to hear if you told him this. So we'll be right back. This is Lock and Load.
Spikes Tactical, we are all shooters with a very simple mission: make the best product we can perfect at the best possible price for our consumers. We strive to produce the best components and rifles available, with quality control second to none, because real-world events don't allow for a second chance. Whether you are an operator, competitor, or home defender, Spikes Tactical will serve you well. Go to SpikesTactical.com. Spikes Tactical, 100% American-made to the highest standard.
At Staccato, we know there's no such thing as a fair fight, and we bring the unfair advantage that is the 2011 platform.
Dominate.
At Staccato, we know the most important gun you own is the one that you're carrying when you're facing that threat to life and freedom.
Win.
We want you to enter that objective confident that you are carrying the best gun in the gunfight. No compromise, no sacrifice. Staccato2011.com. Stand ready to face down the darkness with 2011.
Holster.com, the home of DeSantis quality-built American-made products for 45-plus years. Supporting police and government contracts from first responders to responsible citizens. Holster.com is your source for quality American-made leather and Kydex holsters for the armed American. For concealed carry or open carry, Holster.com has what you need. We didn't invent concealment. We perfected it. Go to Holster.com now and buy a DeSantis holster today.
What's in a name? If that name is Ace Firearms, you've just entered a very expensive business. First, a fully appointed gun shop with all the guns, ammo, and accessories you could possibly imagine. But then you enter the manufacturing facility that is home to Red Alligator Concealment, Militia Arms Customs, and so much more. Ace Firearms is beyond a simple gun shop. This is a totally peerless operation. To find out more, go to acefirearms.com. Ace Firearms. This is only the beginning.
At MGS, we have what it takes to reinvent yourself. With a curriculum designed to balance work, family, and a gun repair education, MGS provides the gateway into one of the fastest-growing segments of the gun industry. Modern Gun School's mission is to provide high-quality distance education using time-tested materials and hands-on projects designed to develop a proficiency in both the technique and the business of gunsmithing. Go to mgs.edu. MGS Trade School. Your future is waiting.
Welcome back. Talking to Rick Ector, talking dealing with challenges and all this other stuff when you're trying to push the Second Amendment right and everything. And the challenge, and like the challenge you were up against was they were, obviously the reporter thinks that if you put a gun into anything and it locks, that gun is just secure until somebody wants to unlock it the way it's designed to be unlocked.
Well, these boxes, these lock boxes are not magic boxes, man. Anything can be compromised. I mean, given sufficient motivation and time.
Right. But, I mean did he know that? Did the reporter know this? No, but see, that's the beauty of it. He was laying forth and presenting me with straw arguments because here's the thing. I was sufficiently impressed that he esteemed me enough to engage me in dialogue because our communication, our conversation was going to allow him to put forth in his mind a better argument in his paper, in his article. Right. He worked right for MLive, by the way, so there's probably going to be an article from MLive featuring a quote from me in it today, so we'll wait and see how that works out. But at the end of the day, bad things happen. Yes, should we do some credible effort up front to prevent bad things from happening? Sure. Yes, for sure. Look at all the applicable facts. You know, what is reasonable to be done? Do we really need a statute that says that your gun in your house should be safeguarded from vulnerable people, small children, untrained adults? Yes, yes, and yes. And if the state wants to specify the manner in which you do secure your gun, well, you know, that opens you up to all sorts of things. Well, yeah, I secured it, but I didn't secure it by the way that you specified. Or maybe the people in my house are all normal, well-adjusted, non-mentally compromised people who can be trusted with a gun. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they didn't do anything bad with it. If I can prove that the child was in the house and the gun was unsecured, nothing bad happened, I can still prosecute. Right. So, you know, it's just a bad situation looking for a solution that doesn't solve anything. My whole point is, if you have a person that has obvious behavioral problems, address that. That is the root cause. Right. To look for your pound of flesh in hindsight is misguided, consumes resources, doesn't solve anything. Yeah, the mother's going to go to prison, I guess, and the father, if he's convicted, he's going to go to prison, but none of that solves the problem. The problem is disturb kid, get him treatment, and if you're really, truly concerned about kids coming in contact with firearms they should not have,
Let's talk about educating children about guns. That's the obvious, direct solution to the problem.
Well, so the question that you were asked, if I'm thinking of it in the right characterization, it sort of sounds like it was put together as a gotcha question to me.
Yeah.
And, so if you get out there and say, well, no, I do not think that we should have, safe storage requirements and stuff such as that, which, do they have that in Michigan now?
We have a state safe storage law as of Valentine's Day. Yeah.
So that means the Fourth Amendment is no longer in effect in Michigan.
A few other things. We got red flags too. So
yeah. So the Fourth Amendment is no longer there, and that's a slippery path to go down. It really is. It's a slippery path to go down. And now that they have taken you guys there, that's sort of messed up. So, and of course, the whole gotcha nature of what they're asking,
Well, here's the thing. I appreciate the discourse, the conversation, the back and forth, and I take it as an honor that I was one called for comment and for a quote.
Sure.
And if that person feels that engaging me in a conversation, he's better informed and can perhaps put forth an argument that can't easily be poked down, who knows more about guns and safe storage than he does, and hey, he was willing to invest the time. Man, you know what? Fine. Let's have that conversation. But I think that the overall problem of mentally unstable people gaining access to guns is not solved by this mandatory so-called safe storage law.
Right.
It's a solution that doesn't solve the problem. Now, to me, my point, I'm saying if that is the obvious problem, then let's deal with it head on. Let's educate all the children.
Sure.
And I don't mean put an AKA in a 5-year-old's hand, but can we at least talk Eddie Eagle? Stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell them
listen, you can't be doing that, Rick. You can't inject logic into a gun grabbing.
Look, if you really care, man, if you really care, like with sex. I mean, sex ed. They think, well, gee, if we tell kids or teenagers or young adolescents about where babies come from, maybe that'll make more of them, have children and unwanted pregnancies and all this other stuff. Well, I mean, not telling them about sex at all is not a good solution, is it? I mean,
well, they'll find out. They'll find out. They'll certainly find out on their own. But I mean, no, it's not a good idea to do that. But I mean, that lends itself to logic once again. None of the stuff that they do is based on logic, Rick.
Well, and I get it. See, you know what? If you have the facts, right, argue the facts, right? If you don't have the facts, pound on the table and yell and scream. And I've been in my share of arguments with people in televised interviews where that's all they essentially did. They put on a good show. They made a lot of noise. And the people in their crowd, their sphere of influence, they were sufficiently motivated that he argued for their cause, even if it was not based in logic. But that's okay. Argue passionately. But so anyway, I did enjoy the back and forth with the reporter, and eventually, he didn't get from me what he wanted, and I wasn't sure exactly what he wanted, but I think me saying the right sentiment would lend it credence because I'm a firearms instructor who has some influence would make it a more credible article. But, I mean, it has to be logical, right? But anyway, it was really fun, doing it today. But, I still had that event that I did this past weekend, which went pretty good, man. And, whenever you get a whole bunch of gun people together and have some conversations about things that's really important, it's always a good thing. And we're talking about all the things that happen in the aftermath of a shooting, you know. And the one thing that I really liked about this program, the way I had it set up, I had two individuals who gave their first-person narratives before a group of interested spectators, people who attended the event, to share their lethal force incident, man. And there were so many takeaways from the experience. I mean, one, I was really honored that they felt comfortable to, I guess, bare their soul, man. It's not an easy thing to stand up in front of a group of people and tell your story and open yourself up to criticism.
Right.
I will say this. What's up?
Well, say it fast, because we're coming up on the next break. You got to say some other stuff. Or just tell everybody how to find you, and you can say it when we get back.
I am Rick Ector, Director Ector. I'm running for re-election to the NRA's Board of Directors. Please re-elect me. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and even IMDb with my fellow partner in virtual crime, Mr. Bill Frady.
Indeed. We'll be right back. This is Lock and Load. Welcome back. Talking to Rick Ector from Legally Armed in Detroit, talking about the discourse. But here's the thing. This is the thing with that reporter. I'm almost certain that he didn't know what he was talking about. I'm almost certain that he was asking you questions and he had what he thought were the right answers. And when you started answering other things, that probably threw him for a bit of a loop. Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say, but let me say this in a more broader, general sense.
Right.
If, for example, you're writing a paper, an essay, or you're forming an argument to be presented on a show such as Bill Frady's Lock and Load. Right. When you're doing that whole discovery process, you're going to come across information that you didn't know existed, and it may force you to rethink your position or your line of attack. Right. And if I was able to do that for this reporter, then mission accomplished. You know, it's one thing to be held in esteem in regard that, okay, if I want to talk guns or gun politics or gun laws, I'm going to call someone for comment. And you know what? And if I'm top of mind, then you've done me a tribute and an honor just by calling me. And I actually enjoyed the discourse. As a matter of fact, it's actually fun debating people. Right. Well, yeah, I enjoy it if we're having a debate that's worth having. If you know, sometimes with some of the stuff that they want to do, they want to get you to say something that you don't intend to say. And then when you fail to say it, then they get a little, shall we say, irate about it. And then it becomes
there are worse things that could happen, man. There are worse things that could happen. For example, they could take something that you said in good faith as part of a larger argument and then pull a salient quote out of context and then make it imply that you in your position said something that, yeah, you did say, but the way they couched it with other stuff around it makes it seem like you meant something that you didn't intend. And that's particularly insidious. Right. Yeah. And there's some news media outlets I won't fool around with or even entertain a conversation with because of those transgressions. But yeah, man. So as we were discussing this event I did this weekend, man, and it was really cool because the thing is that it was a no judgment zone. It was like, tell your story, how it happened, and what things, you know, went into how you did the things you did. And here's the thing. There were some things he advocated that I would never advocate that people do, but he did it and it worked out for him. He didn't get charged. He didn't get prosecuted. He wasn't in prison, and it worked. Now, would I take his narrative and say, okay, this is how you should do it? No. But see, the whole point of talking about these things is that it at least makes you think about them. You know, we can talk about fundamental firearm safety, but when you're actually talking about a real life scenario, your life is on the line, what were the pertinent factors that came into play, how you responded, why you did what you did. Here's the bigger thing, the takeaways. In the aftermath, looking back on it, what were some of the lessons you learned that you want to share with other people? And that was the great beauty of doing this program this past Saturday, man.
Right.
Yeah, it was good. It was good in all respects, and I had a ton of fun in doing it, man. But, yeah, I'll tell you, you know what? Dealing with the media, man, that might be an interesting topic now that you've sufficiently piqued my interest, man. Like,
well, you know, the thing with the media is that the media, for the most part, even the ones that get out there, we support the Second Amendment. Okay, tell me about it. Well, we don't know anything about it, of course. We just we don't know why we support it. We just do because that's we're sure we do, but we don't know. You know, I mean, even the ones that say that they're for you, most of the time they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, and that's the whole point of getting a credible person to speak to it. You know, right. The thing that I hate is now there seems to be this trend towards not even having both sides to an argument in an article. You know, they'll state a position or they'll take a particular slant and they'll just run with it. And there was no credible effort made to see if there was someone who thought otherwise.
Right.
Like, to your point earlier, safe storage. You're like, okay, well, we think that we have an obvious reason why we should have a safe storage law. Is there anyone out there that will say that it won't change anything and it won't make anyone safer if you ignore the root cause of the problem, which is ignorance?
Right. Well, see, that's...
How do you fix ignorance?
Education.
Okay, so why not educate people if it's going to make them safer?
Well, because...
I know earlier...
Listen, it's...
What's up?
You know, I end this show every day with it's never been about gun control. It's been about total control. If they were really out for things, if they were really out for the safety of the regular citizens out there, especially in this era where they have defunded cops and, you know, we've got the Ferguson effect and nobody wants to be a cop no more. And it's the parts of society that were already getting hammered the most by crime that are affected the most by that. If they really wanted to do that, they would just allow everybody to be armed. Instead, and you know, and I mean, the fact that they have passed laws where that's not the case, that just is indicative of the fact that they don't believe in the Constitution. They just pay lip service to it. They just pay lip service to it.
Well, you know, if we actually taught people the Constitution, I don't know if we even do that in schools anymore.
I don't either. I don't know.
I'll tell you what I do remember. I remember when we would cite the amendments to the Constitution, the Second Amendment was always the right to keep and bear arms. But to a person who's being just introduced to the topic, I had no idea that the Second Amendment, well, I knew that the Second Amendment was the right to keep and bear arms, but I didn't understand what the right to keep and bear arms meant.
Right.
And no one wanted to teach me what that meant. So I knew the answer to the question was the Second Amendment, but I couldn't speak to what it actually meant. So
right.
It's almost like, well, here, go to school, and we don't really care if you learn anything. Just recite the right phrases.
Well, I mean, that was my experience, too. We didn't break down and go into why all of this. I mean, especially when we got to the Second Amendment. The First Amendment, they would just dissect the First Amendment. We didn't talk too much about the Third Amendment because we haven't had any British troops that have been forced to be housed in people's houses since the Revolutionary War. And, you know, the Fourth Amendment was way beyond my scope as a lad in school. But, you know, I think part of the human condition is that we're supposed to be free. That's our natural state. That's the way we're supposed to be. And
right.
if somebody comes up at you and is going to attack you, our natural reaction to that is to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
So getting out there and taking away, and this is what it boils down to. I talked about this the other day. The left is taking away every possible means that we have to try to get a fair shake in this country peacefully. They're taking it away, and we're running out of the peaceful means for redress. And very shortly, all that's going to be left is going to be the less than peaceful means. And I don't know if they know what that means. And I certainly, that I'm not happy considering the fact or anything. But in certain places, this is going to be bad for them if they keep on doing what they're doing.
It really is. You think that if you keep poking the bear, eventually that bear might take exception to being poked, especially if you're not offering any other alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about this. If they left you alone, how often would me and you would be talking about shooting technique and grip and stance and all that other stuff. But you know what? We're going to run out of time. We're about to run out of time. So one more time, tell everybody how to find you, please.
I am Rick Ector, Director Ector. I'm running for re-election to the NRA Board of Directors. Please find me every week here on Bill Frady's Lock and Load. Also, Rick Ector. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and yes, even IMDb.
There you go. Always a pleasure, sir.
Hey, man, see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I need to get that. I need to get the music. Anyway. We got hour number 2 coming up. We'll be right back. Find Rick, Legally Armed in Detroit. Go check out his stuff. He's Facebook. That's where you find the most stuff. We'll be right back. This is Lock and Load.